Hello and welcome to my channel. Happy December. If you've been following me, if you follow me over on Instagram, then you know that I've been posting about this process. I recently moved to a new location and the moving was so special. I say this to you all. I know some of you here don't necessarily believe in astrology, but I will say this: don't ever move during Mercury retrograde. Don't ever do it if you can help it. The amount of confusion and misunderstandings and things that broke and things that just didn't work out. I was like, this just wouldn't happen if Mercury wasn't in Gatorade right now. So yeah, I would definitely suggest against that. Also, like every day I was moving, it was raining and I couldn't find my wigs. I couldn't do my hair because all my stuff was all over the place. So coming and getting on camera today at this late ass date of December 17th is really a miracle. And I am going to start off by doing one of these videos here, this compilation of just all the crazy stuff that we have witnessed in the month of December 2024. The season finale of 2024, or really the series finale, because we won't see it again, has been so insane. From assassinations to social media battles, there's been so many crazy things that have happened. And so it just leaves me with one question, which is December 2024, ho, is you cool? Now, of course, I get that little phrase, ho, is you cool, from the youths, the Gen Z youths. It's something that they say, but seriously, is December 2024 cool? Like, I mean, this is crazy. This is one of the craziest ways to end a year. Am I wrong? Now, if you've been having personally like a very calm, chill end of the year, good for you. But I know for me, the end of this year has been marked by making what's been going on politically and in the bigger world has really matched what's been going on in my smaller world. So I just wanted to take a moment and talk about a couple of things. Let's start off with the first thing that happened this month that really ushered in the fact that this was going to be a ridiculous, wild month, and that was the assassination of the United Healthcare CEO. So something that sticks out to me about that whole thing is that it really, really, really put on display how terrible, number one, the healthcare system is in America, and number two, the big divide between, not necessarily between parties, right? Not necessarily between the red party, the blue party, conservatives, liberals, et cetera, but between the capitalists, like the super rich, and the average everyday person. And I just wish, not saying that I wish people were assassinated, I'm not saying that at all, but I just wish something like this had happened, something this jolting that just reminded kind of all of us that at the end of the day, the politicians and the people that we elect in office, it's a good thing that they have more in common with us and not less, because if they don't, we'll continue to see systems like the healthcare system completely unregulated, completely unfair, with the rich people that have vested interest in it only getting richer, and the poorer people that are just trying to live becoming poorer, and even in some situations passing away because these systems aren't fixed. And that is what a lot of people were saying after this happened. Like, one of the things that happened was Ben Shapiro, who is a commentary person. He's very popular in conservative circles, and just in general, people watch a lot of his videos. They watch his channel. He was in the news a lot after this event happened because he made a video talking about this and basically demonizing Luigi and saying that, we should not be a country where we celebrate people doing things like this because, that whatever, right? And there were so many people in his comment section saying, hey, Ben, I don't know if you know this, but people are dying. And I don't know if you know this, but the healthcare system sucks. And Ben also tried to make it into a liberals versus conservatives thing, blah, blah, blah. And there was one guy whose comment went kind of viral where he said, I don't care about liberals versus conservatives. I care about my family. How can I help my family? How can they be healthy? How can we live our lives? And a term that started floating around from that situation was the term class consciousness, and that people were finally waking up to the fact that this country is not necessarily so divided when it comes to, like I said earlier, conservative versus liberal. This country's really divided when it comes to the haves and the have-nots, the working man and the bourgeoisie. It was glaring. This situation brought that so much to the forefront, and it also brought to the forefront how much, I think, me personally, how much I take good health for granted. I mean, yes, something might happen to me occasionally, like, I take a dance class and I can't walk for 2 weeks, or I have a toothache, or I get a sinus infection. But the great thing about being in general good health is that you can always come back to zero. You can always come back to yourself, to your body, to your normal. What this situation brought to the forefront for me was that so many people don't have that story. The amount of people that opened up in comment section after comment section after comment section and talked about situations with their families where their claims to get the services that they needed were denied by United Healthcare. And in some cases, the claims were approved, but only after the person who needed the health care was deceased. The fact that people's needs for different procedures and their needs for different medications were consistently disregarded. And what's so wild is that it's one of those things where, because not everybody's dealing with it, people don't pay attention to it and it gets swept under the rug. And this situation just brought to the forefront how deeply unfair that is. How grateful you should be if you're in a healthy body, how quickly that can change, and who are the people and the services and the systems you can count on to take care of you when that happens. And when they don't take care of you, what price should they have to pay? And I'm not going to say what should or shouldn't happen to him, but I am going to say that when it came to Luigi and the way he decided to go about getting the justice he felt his mother deserved, that he felt he deserved. I say his mother because he has some interesting political affiliations and beliefs. If you don't know, he wrote a manifesto. He was a part of some interesting groups online before he allegedly did this. And one of the things he talked about was his mom and how much she struggled with a condition called neuropathy. I didn't even know what this was. If you are in good health, I want to say this again, be so grateful. Be so grateful. There are things, I don't even know what things are. I'm reading comment sections and I'm like, wait, what can happen? What happened to you? Crazy. But he was talking about his mom and how she's just in this incredible nerve pain all day, and how he watched United Healthcare deny her surgeries and deny her treatment. And he would watch this woman that raised him crawl on her hands and knees, screaming in pain. What? And the systems that are supposed to save you, that are supposed to help you, can watch you be like that and say, no, we won't. You don't need, it's not important. It's not, what do they call it? It's not necessary care. And I also want to talk about the fact that this situation caused people to go and look up what insurance CEOs make. Nobody should be making that much money, period. When people are suffering, when you are in charge of a system that is supposed to ease people's suffering, and you are turning down things because they're too expensive, they're not necessary, and yet you're making 8 figures a year to just turn people down, who do you think that you are? Who do you think that you are? Why do we live in a place where this is okay? My little world was rocked by that whole situation. I don't think that this young man is going to get away with it. I'll just be honest with you. But I will say that whenever I was thinking about his case, I was thinking about the movie A Time to Kill, and how they asked Samuel L. Jackson's character in the movie, do you think these men deserve to die? And if you've never seen it, Samuel L. Jackson plays a father who lives in a really racist society, and his daughter is brutally assaulted by these racist men, and he finds out where the men are, these racist white men. He lives in a really segregated town, and he finds out where they are, and he kills them. And he goes on trial for this, and Matthew McConaughey is the young lawyer who has to try and defend him. And there's a point in the trial where they ask him, do you think these men deserve to die? And he says, yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell. And that's what I was thinking. If somebody was to ask Luigi, like, do you think that man deserves, if somebody was to ask all those people who their services have been denied, they've watched their relatives and their loved ones die in agonizing pain because they can't get the care that they need, do you think this man deserved to die? Do you think these people? The answer would probably be similar. And I also thought about that case. I was like, how did Samuel L. Jackson get away with that? Or his character? And I think in the book it was something like, or in the movie it was something like, they gave him innocent because they pleaded in the insanity defense or something like that. Like he was so insane with rage over what happened to his daughter that he couldn't possibly be held accountable for what his actions were, and any parent would have done the same. I don't think the same thing is going to work for Luigi, unfortunately. This was the least cool thing that could possibly have happened, as far as the fact that it brought this extremely important issue to the forefront, and our election is over, and unfortunately we voted a party in power who definitely sides more with CEOs and corporations than it does with your average everyday citizen who needs these services that these kind of corporations tend to deny them. Timing was terrible. The way this young man is going to be handled is terrible. And the United States healthcare system is a goddamn shame. All right, the next event. I got to talk about Jay-Z. Okay. And what's funny is that Luigi, he started off with one lawyer, and the lawyer people were saying like, oh my God, he's like, he's like it's like he was a character. He would say things like, I don't have any evidence he committed this crime. Look at my hands. This is all the evidence I got. And of course there's nothing in his hands. So that guy is, I don't think, no longer his lawyer. Now his lawyer is the same person that, or his lawyer is married to Jay-Z's lawyer. That's what I heard. And we got to talk about what happened with Jay-Z. So earlier this month, I think it might have even been last week, Jay-Z finally was incriminated or called to the front for something. People have been waiting on that ever since Puffy went to jail. I know, me personally, I didn't like people bringing Beyonce into it because she hasn't necessarily done anything. Her comment sections were a hot mess. You know, the whole hashtag, she knows what happened. She knows what happened. She was there for everything. People committed crimes to get her to the top. Aaliyah would still be alive, but they wanted Beyonce to be a star. You know, I sat there and I watched all that and I was like, this is all ridiculous. But one thing that I did have a hard time was believing that Jay-Z was absolutely innocent when he's been photographed so much with Puffy. I mean, two men who grew up similarly, were around hip hop and in those circles at the same time. You know, he done been to Puffy's parties. I had a hard time believing he had never seen anything and he had never been involved with anything. I had a very hard time believing that. So when something finally came out and it was like Jay-Z might have done this thing, I was like, I do believe it. I do believe it. Now, I'm willing to see if he's proven innocent, but I definitely believe that he's done something. There's just no way that this man is this squeaky clean. Like, there's no way. And then it turned out that the accuser was probably a liar. Jay-Z, he stuck up for himself. He was like, the lawyer that's representing her is somebody who actually tried to extort me. The reason why y'all are even hearing about this is because I wouldn't give them any money. So yeah, go ahead. Let's go ahead and take this to court. Oh, by the way, I didn't say it, but I'm sure you guys know if you're watching this, his accuser stated that she was assaulted by Jay-Z and Puffy when she was 13 years old after a VMA party or something like that. And Jay-Z was like, this person is lying. I still think that he's probably seen something and done something. It just wasn't that thing. I expected him to be charged or somebody to try and charge him with something. And the fact that it turned out to be so goofy and everybody ended up walking back their claims, it was really a non-issue at the end of the day. And he'll be just fine. It was ridiculous when it happened, but quickly conversation died down and people weren't worried about it anymore. So it is what it is. Next thing I want to talk about is Blue Ivy. So when all this happened, it was just really terrible timing because Blue Ivy was stepping out at her first film premiere. She's going to be the voice of Kiara in the new Lion King. I don't know why they keep giving us new live action Lion Kings. I don't know if you guys have watched my vlog where I went to Disney World, but in that vlog, I talk about how I'm walking around, I'm going to the Disney stores, I'm looking at things, and it's still all the same stuff I saw when I was a kid. I grew up in the 90s. I went to Disney World 4 times when I was a kid, from the years 1992 to 2002. So whenever I would go, yeah, there were new movies coming out, but Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King, Aladdin, those were huge. Those were like the big, whatever. And then as I got older, Finding Nemo, Princess and the Frog, Tarzan, those, but they're not ever gonna hit as hard as those three. Like when Disney did that, they did their big one, right? All three of those back to back to back. And when you go now to Disney World, they're still holding their weight. They're still holding. You go, you can still see Ariel in her grotto. You can still, a lot of there's still attractions. I think now the kids really like Moana, and who else? I can't think of any other movie that Disney's done. I would say Encanto, but it hadn't taken over like Moana. Them children love Moana. That being said, one of the things I said in the video was Disney needs new heat. They need new movies. They need new things that people get excited about. And I want to know why they keep remaking these old things. But anyway, Blue went to the premiere and she wore this dress. And not only were people talking about her dad around the time that she did the premiere, but they were talking about her so bad in her dress. And a lot of the conversation came from aunties, right? That's why we don't like when people call folks aunties, because it's that idea of I'm going to speak down to, I'm going to speak over someone's, a lot of us come from, I can speak for myself and a lot of other people. You come from situations where older people talk down to you about your body, about what you had on, et cetera, and you have to respect them. They're the aunties. So tell her to shut up, It came from women in our community, from other Black women. It is no secret that people tend to look at young Black women's bodies with a certain amount of fear, a certain amount of, I don't want to say revulsion, but just they're definitely hypersexualized very early on. And a lot of that awareness of the hypersexualization produces shame. And I think that shame can turn into a very critical attitude. And you hear that criticism a lot of times from older women in our community, or just a certain type of woman. And I saw that a lot. I saw people calling out Blue's outfit a lot. I'll be honest with you. I saw it, and it wasn't just Black women, by the way. It was all kind of people saying she was too grown. I think in general, anybody who's associated with Beyonce right now is a target. I think Blue has already been a target ever since she was born. People have had an issue with her. She didn't look right. She didn't, whatever. Her hair wasn't right. There's always been an issue. But this was interesting because her dress was not unlike what young girls wear to premieres regardless of their age. What was different about Blue's dress was she has something already at 12 years old that fills out her little sweetheart neckline. I thought the dress was gorgeous. I thought that she looked beautiful, but I could also tell, Blue's growing up. She's got a little bit of a chest. Now, I want to say this. I didn't notice it until people were like, she looked too grown. She looked too grown in that. She too grown. I didn't notice. I did not notice. And then I looked at her again. I said, I guess she does have a little bit of cleavage. Okay. To me, she's a baby. She's a baby wearing a big dress. That's it. But I also am not one to hypersexualize. I also am not one to look at someone. That's not my mindset. So I didn't see that. And I just thought it was a really, really bad kind of combination of events. Jay-Z's getting drugged, and then Blue comes out for her first premiere and people are dragging her. And I really hope that I hope that she is stronger than the comment sections. They attacked this baby girl so viciously, and she's a baby. And some of those things people say to her and about her are going to always stick with her forever. I know if you were ever a young woman where people talked about your body, for me, thighs and butt were something people commented on all the time. I'll never forget a little boy asking me if I could even fit in the chair to play Oregon Trail because my butt was so big. It might be funny now, but at the time I went home and I asked my parents what happened to my butt. Why does my body look like this? Like I hated it. So I can only imagine when you're that young, people, so many people making comments, and especially if you thought you looked so beautiful, and then to come online possibly and to see that. And I know also that whenever Blue was doing Renaissance, she was out there, barely dancing. And it was her friends that showed her social media. It wasn't Beyonce and her family. Beyonce and the family were like, we're not going to show her that. She'll grow into it. We're fine with her. She's our Blue. Her friends were like, yo, people are talking about you and they're saying you can't dance. They're saying you shouldn't be out there with your mom. We just thought you should know. We just thought you should know, right? And then Blue came and she came with it. But I know there's a sense probably of her family to protect her, but that doesn't mean her little friends are going to do it. That doesn't mean her little friends aren't going to, pull up Instagram comments, send her stuff on Snap, whatever. So yeah, I would give it a 7 because I'm sure it's an amazing experience. She looks gorgeous, but there's definitely going to be some long-term damage done from having to hear everybody's comments about her and her body and how she looks. And I think that's really sad. We're going to continue talking about Disney here. And this is something that made me really, really sad because, like I said, I went to Disney World this year. I got to go for the first time in 22 years. I had not been back. And I had some questions. The first question was, how the hell are people affording to be Disney adults? This is expensive. The second question was, how can I be a paid Disney adult? Because the whole world of Disney influencers is huge. I was not prepared until I started kind of looking on TikTok and trying to find okay, where can I go and what can I see and what's the best rides and what are the best restaurants. Disney influencers got your back. Back in the day, you might have needed a travel agent. You probably need one again soon since we got the TikTok ban coming in. I'll talk about that in a second. But back in the day, you'd need a travel agent or you'd need, whatever to guide you. Now you get on TikTok. They'll tell you what to wear. They'll tell you where to go, what restaurants to eat, what hotels to stay at, right? I was obsessed with the fact that there's people who get paid, by the park, they get invited out. And then if you're a certain kind of influencer, so a family influencer, a dancing influencer, a couples influencer, you're super brand safe. You could be invited out by Disney themselves. I remember the week that I went, I was posting that I was at Disney World and somebody messaged me on Instagram and they were like, hey girl, are you with Disney? They have influencers out there right now. And I was just kind of like, no. Because I know I'm not brand safe, right? I know I'm not the kind of creator that Disney would take to a place like that. And I saw that they were they in Disneyland or Disney World, wherever they were. But and I have to admit, it was a little bit ouch, because I'm hustling, trying to figure out, okay, how can I cut costs? How can I do this? How can I do that? Meanwhile, they got an all expenses paid trip, because all they do is dance on camera or they just show their kids or whatever. But to each his own. People are going to be their own authentic selves. And there's greater rewards for certain kinds of authenticity than there is for others. So I've been said that. But I was intrigued by the idea of how much great stuff you can get if you are a Disney creator. It's amazing. If you love Disney World, if you love that whole thing, you can live a pretty great life. And there was one Disney creator, I'm sure I saw her content probably around that time, but I do remember seeing her, and her name was Domonique Brown. And Domonique loved Disney. She was a Disney creator, lifestyle, she loved it. And Domonique died after an event. I thought it was an event at Disney. I'm still not quite sure where it was, but it was an event held by a company called Lunchbox something. Listen, when you are a lifestyle creator, when you make that kind of content, there's so much stuff about. I had never heard of this company. I had never heard of Lunchbox. I was trying to figure out, what is this? So they make box lunches? I didn't know. But Domonique was a Disney influencer, was a Disney creator, and she went to an event, and it was sponsored by and held by this Lunchbox Studios or Lunchbox, whatever they're called. And she had a food allergy, and they did not fix it. They did not adhere to it. They did not listen to her. And she lost her life. She died at 34 years old. When I saw that, on top of everything else that's happening in this stupid month, I was just like, are you effing kidding me? A Disney creator goes to an event for Lunchbox, whatever, that name, Lunchbox, and dies? That is such a, like, that's like somebody going to an event held by Kinder Care or something. Just like, it's such an innocuous name. It's such a, there's no evil or malice in the name. Like, all these people that go to things that are so much more innately harmful and make it out alive. And she goes to a event and doesn't come home. And I think what really shook people was there were friends in the industry, people she knew she had passed away, but didn't want to say anything because they didn't want to ruin their relationships with the vendors and with these companies that give them these opportunities. That is something that I can't identify with. But I do know what a great opportunity it is to be included. So, but that's unbelievably sad. And it took news agencies so long to talk about it. It took Lunchbox so long to make a statement. I still don't know what the hell they do. I went to their Instagram. I was super confused. Stationary? I don't know. But how sad was that? Speaking of content creators and the world and the business of content creation, we need to talk about the TikTok ban. But before we talk about that, can we talk about my sweater? We haven't talked about my sweater yet. Look at this, y'all. Is that not amazing? This is amazing. This is the best Christmas sweater I've ever owned. Moving on. TikTok is going to be banned, and this is an absolute. This is no longer a joke. This is no longer a possibility. This is no longer a group of angry government officials stomping around in the dark trying to figure out what the kids are doing over on TikTok and what's going on. And this is something they seriously want to do. In the past, whenever the future of TikTok has been up for debate, the TikTok CEO has jumped online and been like, hey guys, don't worry. Hey guys, it's fine. But that's not happening this time. In the past, there's been news, hey, we need somebody to buy this app. We need something to happen. And somebody swooped in and done something. And it hasn't happened this time. And so it's looking very likely that TikTok will be banned. And what makes me so sad about that is, as a content creator, I validate content creation as a job. And I know how many people have been able to work from home, support their families, get themselves out of debt, pay for medical procedures, send themselves to school, get themselves out of really terrible situations, just elevate their lives in general because of that app. I was never able to build a platform on TikTok. I have a TikTok account. Some of you may have found it. I have 212 followers. I am somebody who recognized very early on that I didn't really have a lot to offer TikTok. I don't have an aspirational, wonderful life to do lifestyle content. I'm not a beauty guru. I don't care about fashion. I don't have luxury things to show you. I'm not doing and telling no stories on TikTok about no man that did me wrong. Risa Tisa did her thing. Good for that. Good for her. But what happened to Risa Tisa is very unlikely. What's more likely is people run you off the damn internet, mock you, turn you into a joke. And if I thought the response on YouTube was bad when you tell a story about some man that did you wrong, if I thought YouTube was bad, I hadn't seen shit. The way people get ripped up on TikTok, and all people need to do is put on that bonnet and sit up in bed with a blanket around their shoulders and say, y'all seen that story from that girl? Oh, Steph Cole? Oh, Oh my God. So let me just say one thing. You know, that bonnet and headboard content, we're going to talk about that in a second with Jackie Aina and the Super Five. That was crazy. But yo, I am not made for the way they go in on people on TikTok. I'm just being real. And I knew that. So I can't do lifestyle content. I ain't telling no stories. So what's left? Commentary? So I can get it. So I can get whooped if people don't agree with my opinion. See, the thing about YouTube is people don't agree with your opinion here. They'll tell you up in the comment section. I can be like, I don't like that. And I can log off. Okay? I can move on to another video. I don't have to. TikTok, you make a commentary video. You say something people don't like. They can get your account banned. So there go your little money, your little coins. You be scrolling on your page. You see your name over and over and over again because everybody got the same FYP. The possibilities for toxicity for the kind of content I might provide were just too high. And when I started my TikTok content in February of this year, I started another account because this is my third account. Oh, my fourth. There's an interesting story about my third because it was a burner and I got blocked by somebody who's famous for blocking people. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. I got blocked on my burner and I was like, oh, she really don't play. Okay. But when I started this account, the initial goal was to be a dog mom account and to talk about my dogs and to have them act out in skits. And I did a couple of videos and I said, wait a minute, I gotta build an audience again from scratch? This is too much work. Because let me tell you, it's hard to work. It's hard to get your dogs to act. It's hard to grow an account from the bottom up, period. And I think what happened with me was I was like, I'm not doing this again. I'm not, it's one thing if you're just doing it for fun. Hey, I posted, I have 50 likes. Who cares? But it's quite another thing if you've been in the game like me for a little bit of time and you're not just posting for no 50 likes. You trying to see numbers. You're trying to see growth. You're trying to see progress. And I just wasn't willing to do that with another platform. If it had happened really easily and organically, sure. But I think from the very beginning, I got a comment. Someone said, where are your vlogs? What the hell is this? Dogs? And I was like, you know what? You're right. I don't have anything to offer that is going to really result in this being worth my time. So I'll post when I can, but making it a priority, nah, we good. We good. However, just because TikTok never worked for me doesn't mean I can't see how valuable it was. Like I said, launched Risa Tisa into a whole new stratosphere. Funny story, she is in the latest edition of People magazine and it says Risa Tisa, the storyteller. And if you know anything about me, and maybe you don't, but I legitimately thought that when I first started running my mouth and telling my stories here on the internet, that I was going to be in Time magazine with Stephanie, the storyteller. I legitimately foresaw that in my future. And I feel like Elphaba in Wicked, where she's like, I see a ceremony throughout Oz and I'm going to be with the wizard and everybody's going to be talking about how great we are. But it was the opposite of what she thought. Like, I definitely saw somebody writing the storyteller in a magazine, but it just wasn't me. It was another person. And I think that's cool. Like, if you can figure out how to get into that app and make it work for you, any app, any platform, and walk away as a champion and have doors open and opportunities, that's amazing. And I love the fact that TikTok created that for people. I think, like I said, I'm a creator, so I validate it. There are so many people who make videos and they're like, oh, please, influencers are mad because they can't sell us shit on TikTok. Get a real job. I'm gonna be real with you. Again, a job is anything you do in exchange for goods and services, and exchange for money, things you clock in on. I'm gonna be real with you. Doing a day in the life vlog can sometimes take up to 10 hours, 11 hours, like editing, making sure you're watching the whole day, setting up your shots. Remember, I did that video earlier this year that nobody watched about that guy, Drew something, who would go into Target, and he was the Target guy and he was getting all this, people were hating on him, and he had to do so many vlogs before Target was finally like, yo, we're going to work with you, and we're going to work with you on Super Bowl weekend. Like, it takes investment, it takes time, it takes a certain amount of willing to feel embarrassed. there is work that goes into this thing that seems to be so easy. And I think what people do is they concentrate on the top like 2% of influencers, the top 2% of content creators. They look at, your people that get in front of the camera. They're like, okay, guys, I just want to tell you all about this cream that I've been using. Everybody's been asking me about, and they say that is the only type of person that's doing this. That's the person we hate. It looks like they're not working. They're not really doing. But then there's so many other people that do so much other stuff. What about the people that have content that is related to cooking? Do you know how much money it takes, how much investment it takes to have the right equipment, the right lighting to shoot recipes, how much schooling? I love the fact that there's so many creators who got so big working as private chefs. There's a girl, what is she? Wishbone Kitchen. If you're on TikTok, she blew up in 2023 for being the private chef out in the Hamptons. She just bought her house, I think, in the Hamptons. She's bought a house in the Hamptons from doing this content. But before she became a private chef, she had to go to culinary school. She had to work her way up in restaurants. Like, good content creation, good content creators, they are successful. Most of the time, it's not the result of them just hopping in front of the camera and trying to sell you something. It is the result of them preparing themselves to be interesting enough to get enough people to want to listen and to want to watch them so that they can get in the position to try and sell you something. And somebody made up a great point. They said, we are okay with someone like Elon Musk. So using platforms like X or using Instagram or using Threads or whatever, hell, using YouTube, we're okay with using these platforms and letting these people sell to us with their ads and letting these people manipulate how we use these things, right? And we know they don't do anything but get richer. We're okay with that. But we have a problem with your local mom of five jumping on TikTok shop and selling some damn leggings so she can buy presents for her kids for Christmas. Why does it matter as long as people are working? It's a job. I was looking through so many comments where people were like, oh, okay, ha ha ha. Now you have to go get a real job. Get a 9 to 5 like the rest of us. Content can very much be a 9 to 5. It should be, damn. Whenever people talk about how they don't think I'm consistent enough, they don't think, you know why that is? That's because I don't do 9 to 5s. I work like a shutdown schedule. I'll do, a certain amount of days where I don't produce any content. I let myself think about, ruminate, what do I want to talk about, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll just power through 3 20-hour work days in a row. Well, not 20 hours, but you get what I'm saying. In a row. I'll do a whole 40-hour work week in 3-4 days. Like, it's a very flexible, and I want to say this too. When you're doing content creation, you don't ever stop thinking. Just because I'm not filming doesn't mean I'm not thinking about stuff. Like, why are people so locked into the fact that unless I am clocking in on somebody else's time with my time card, doing a 9 to 5, sitting at a desk, doing work that they have labeled as acceptable ways to make money, why are they so against accepting that somebody else might just do something a different way and it's okay? And some people said, well, it's just jealousy. They wanted to pop off on the platforms and they never did. And I think that is a perfect point. Every time I see somebody get in front of a platform and I hate this, but when they get in front of TikTok, they get on their page or whatever and they'll be like, pouring out their little lotion or whatever, and they'll be like, let me tell you guys about the creators that I used to follow that I don't follow anymore. Okay, so no hate to these creators. Get a life. You are literally trying to be those creators right now. When people make content about the fact that they hate content creators and they want everybody to agree with them and they want views and they want their videos to blow up, it's like, I can definitely see the jealousy line there. But for the most part, I just think people can't open their minds and accept that somebody might make money doing something that is non-traditional and also is completely legal. It is one of the biggest gifts that I think we've had in a long time for people looking for non-traditional ways to make an income. And I really hate when people laugh at the TikTok ban because it's like, are you not also listening to people talk to you about how bad the job market is? Did we not just elect the man that was elected because everybody couldn't talk about how bad the economy is? People can't make no money. So here's a way to make money. Here's a way to do this. But we're laughing at people. I understand if you think, oh, it's just not safe. I understand if you think, well, that's different. But it's laughing at people who have made this a legitimate way of making life, have been able to pay their bills, take care of their families, because you don't understand, because it's not legitimate in your eyes. I hate that. I hate that. I think it has been a phenomenal app. It's done great things for people. It's done great things for culture. It's done great things for people's music careers. It's done great things for people's fashion careers. It's done great things for people's acting careers. How many of you know that girl who'll be like, she plays like different characters, and she has that one viral sound on TikTok that's like, oh, 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 oh. Her name is Sabrina something, and she ended up on Abbott Elementary working as a substitute. Like, when that app goes away, as a society, we will be losing a lot. People will be losing their way to make money. The way you create a good economy is not by taking away opportunities for people to earn an income. It's by giving it to them. And we have long been a society that has proven that we don't know, or we run out of ways to give people opportunities to earn an income. So great, the traditional ways don't always work. So we have this now. And I don't see why people don't think it's a valuable thing. And I think they're just in their own little shells. Their heads are in the ground. They're just not paying attention. They look at people say things like, you think your life is hard? Try being an influencer for a day. I don't know if you guys remember that girl that said that a couple years ago. And it's like, okay, if you've ever created content, you know what she means. But, people hear something like that and they're like, I'm a surgeon. Okay, listen, both things can be hard in different ways, all right? I'm going to miss the app. I think it's going to create a huge economic dip for a lot of people that have learned how to adapt their businesses. They've learned how to adapt themselves, and they've created income. Some of them have become millionaires from that app. I think that is a brilliant thing, and it's been a wonderful thing for a lot of people. And I hate that it's going away like this. There is some talk of Elon Musk buying it. If Elon Musk buys TikTok, I will delete my content, and my little 200 followers will just have to say goodbye to me so fast. So fast. I don't want to be involved or associated with anything that man does ever. I do want to say that one thing I will not miss when TikTok goes, or I might miss it, I don't know, is the mess. So there's two things that popped across my FYP in the month of December. One was Morgan Bailey and the final chapter of The Random Man from Atlanta. That was eye-opening. And number two was Jackie Aina and the Super Five, or Jackie Aina versus the Super Five. And they both happened in the same damn week. Last week was rough. So let's first talk about Morgan Bailey. So if you don't know who Morgan is a young woman. She's about 24 years old. Morgan gained notoriety on TikTok in 2023, I believe, because she came online and said she is a single mom to a baby conceived with a random man from Atlanta. He apparently abandoned her as soon as the baby was born. The baby name is Gigi. And Morgan, who came from this like 2-parent household and apparently maybe had like a very protected life growing up, was just like, what world have I found myself in? She was pregnant by a man named Jaquan, who had 7 other baby mamas. I mean, this is something that it was like a BET after school special. It got worse and worse the more we found out about him. But Morgan, when she first popped online, it was very clear that the girl was funny as hell. And her editing was so genius. Like, she was definitely a Gen Z creator in the way that she used certain kinds of comedy and certain kinds of editing to bring in an audience. I did not watch her initially, but I started watching her more this year. And I love every time she's on camera. Morgan went through a lot when, after building an audience of women who were there to support her and who were like, yeah, we hate that man because he left you and Gigi alone. She popped up at the beginning of last year, and the random man from Atlanta, Jaquan, was back in her videos. And he was like, maybe we're going to try and make this family work. And a lot of people were saying he's only back because he wants money, Morgan. Don't do this. And a lot of people were saying, let her make her mistakes. Of course, because this was happening on TikTok, the fallout of her disappointing her audience was so much greater than it would have been on any other app. That's why, again, I said, I'm staying off TikTok. I'm not trying to catch no heat, because the way every video was about Morgan, the way people were, again, the headboards and bonnets were weighing in, the way she was getting ripped up, torn up, upside down, inside out. I was like, I'm not strong enough for that. You can't make no mistakes like that on that app. You just can't. If you tell people this is what I stand for, you better not ever mess up. It's a very hard app to be on. Social media is hard in general to be on and to be making mistakes, but to do something that visible, to be that young, to have she's having a rough beginning of the year. So I think what they decided to do was to take Jaquan out of the content and, not confirm or deny with us whether or not he was still with her. In the process, though, we learned more about his character. Not only did we learn about all the baby mamas, but we learned that he was not above exposing Morgan as far as like pictures and videos that she might have sent him. He was not above embarrassing her. And eventually we learned that he was not above hitting her. When she got online last week and said that I have been in an abusive relationship this entire time. He has been incredibly abusive to me. My daughter has seen everything. It is time for me to go. And she wouldn't have had to do that if Jaquan hadn't gone online and been like, Morgan ain't who y'all think she is. Look how she hit me. And it turns out that she hit him because she finally fought back. And she was able to prove everything she said with texts. Turns out this man really was trying to extort her. He was asking for huge amounts of money too. $20,000, $50,000. Listen, that's what I hate about never getting a platform on TikTok. Boy, they be paying them folks. But I ain't never had nothing to talk about and didn't have nothing for the people, so. Anyway, this man was asking for huge amounts of money from her. And apparently she was giving it to him. Because again, I think when you come from that privileged, kind of sheltered life and you meet these gargoyle trollops out in the street, you're trying to make them into what you knew growing up. But it's like, no, once a demon from the pits of hell, always a demon from the pits of hell. And I'm sorry, but between a man and a woman, money is always a major issue. And any man that asks you to come up off some cash to have something to do with him is a piece of garbage. And I know from experience, okay? So it was very clear that this man never respected her. He was only there because, as he put it, she was paying for the family. He was threatening her life. I mean, it was nasty. And so Morgan, said, hey, y'all were right, basically, and this is tough. And I'm done. She posted a video of her removing his stuff from the home, and she took some days off. And then she popped back up recently and was like, hey, I'm moving to YouTube. And this is something else with that TikTok ban. A lot of us that are here on YouTube, a lot of you people who are watching, I feel like YouTube is going to, for both consumers and creators, there's going to be an oversaturation. I personally am prepared for my views to go because there's going to be so many people coming over and they are hungry and YouTube is new to them. I remember when YouTube was new to me, it wasn't nothing for me to post 2 videos in a day, 3 videos in a week, 4 videos. And now that I've been doing it for a while, I'm kind of like dragging ass. It's like, but Morgan came over, and I think when I first saw, I think within a couple hours, she already had 20,000 followers. She's got 1 million over on TikTok. So she's bringing her audience with her. I think she's incredibly intelligent. I think she's so funny. Morgan needs to do stand up. And Morgan is an example of somebody who would have a different career if her life was brand safe. So I hope that in separating finally from her baby daddy, from Jaquan and his 7 baby mamas or whatever he got going on, I hope that she's able to get that brand safe kind of vibe, because Morgan is hilarious and she should be doing deals on deals on deals on deals on deals. And she's got an adorable baby. Gigi's so cute, and she's so cute with Gigi. And I just think she's going to do amazing things. But that is definitely some TikTok mess and some TikTok tea. And it came to an end this month as well. It was terrible to see, but I love the way she handled herself. I think she's going to do great things. But that is something that would not have been possible for us all to be witness to without TikTok. And now let's go ahead and talk about jacking Aina and the Super 5. This went on for so many days. And as a content creator who has spoken about so many of the things that were brought up during this little feud and conflict, this was like my thesis statement. If I was studying, I have thought about going to school, going to grad school, and getting like a master's in human behavior or something, and using everything that I've learned being a part of the internet ecosystem over the past few years. So not just, how people respond in comment sections, but also how people respond to certain creators, why people decide to follow certain people, they don't follow others, what kinds of content produces a certain type of audience, what are the different rhythms and rituals that I've noticed that repeat themselves over time. And this saga combined it all. So let's talk about it. And now, if you watch this channel, more than likely you were there when it was happening. I think somebody DM'd me and they're like, "Ooh, this Super 5 stuff is a lot." And I said, "Isn't it?" Because I really had nothing else at the time. Like, I was trying to pack or trying to get moved. Things were coming in from every angle, and then they was carrying on like this. I was like, I ain't got nothing else to say. But it was definitely a thing that took over a certain demographic over on TikTok for like a solid week. And again, because of everything I've always said about the reality of not only being a content creator, but being a Black female content creator, I want to say that I initially wanted to do a whole separate video about this, and it was going to be called Jackie Aina, the Super 5, and the Caveat of Commentary Content. And then the general clusterfuck of moving into a new place that was bigger during Mercury retrograde, and almost everything that could go wrong was going wrong. I just didn't have the time, the space, or the wigs to jump online. And I say the wigs because underneath this is a natural disaster. Like, I ain't had time to wash my hair. They had to come fix my drain yesterday. So it's just been an adventure. So I didn't get a chance to make a separate video, although I maybe should have. So I'm really going to try and condense down what could have been like a whole 45-minute take on this situation. I want to start off by really quickly summarizing what was going on. A lot of you probably already know, but in case you don't, you have this group of creators on TikTok that are known for just giving their takes on things. That's what they're mainly known for. I follow two of the creators, two of the most highly visible in this group, Machiavelli or Mecca and Jamila. I follow both girls. I started following Mecca first because I thought she was hilarious. Actually, no, I started following Mecca in the summer of 2023 because of a creator named Brittany Joy who had passed away. And Mecca was close with another creator named Kaylin Easley, who is another person that kind of just gives her takes. But Kaylin, I don't think Kaylin and Mecca are close anymore, but Kaylin and Mecca were in charge of putting out the word that Brittany Joy had passed away. All three of them were Houston-based content creators, and Brittany was in the process of building her platform. She used to do these really funny videos about getting dressed and getting ready in the morning. And she went to a picnic for Juneteenth and died in a car accident on her way back home. Like, it was such a sad thing. And Mecca was one of the ones that was, like I said, put in charge of directing people to the GoFundMe and just putting out the word. And I was like, well, who is this Mecca? I'd heard of Brittany Joy. I'd heard of Kaylin. I had no idea who Mecca was. So I started looking at some of Mecca's content, and I was like, she's funny. Hot takes, people that give their takes, people that comment on TikTok are nothing new. But Mecca was funny, very funny. And also she's from Houston. And so sometimes she would go and do like the Sunday Fun Day stuff. And I could see some of the old places I used to hang out at and be reminiscent. So I really liked her. Like, old girl's funny. Oh, she's also from New York. I mean, not New York. She's also from California, from Sacramento. But she also went to college, or she spent some time in Baltimore. She went to like, she's well-traveled. She's seasoned. She's been around. I love the fact that her and Jamila started a podcast called Unhinged and Immoral, because to me, that means that they are modern young Black women who are not afraid of all sides of who they are. When I first started doing content, my bio was, I'm unhinged, but I mean well, because a lot of my stories were just crazy. They were my experiences that I'd had with men. I was just being like, woo, and just letting it all out. And I remember wandering into a comment section of a video somebody made about me, and people were like, did you see her bio? It said she's unhinged. She knows she's insane. And I've talked about this before, but the amount of people that labeled me with every psychological disorder in the book when I started opening up about my experiences and things that had happened, et cetera, it made me hate therapy language. It made me hate the weaponization of therapy language. It made me hate armchair psychologists and psychiatrists. And it made me want to shut my damn mouth and not say anything. And so what I ended up doing was I took that out of my bio and I just changed it to thank you for watching, smiley face. And I also cringed a little bit when Alex Cooper, of Call Her Daddy fame, started a media company called Unwell Media. We're so unwell. We're so unhinged. I was like, oh, it's okay for a white girl to be that way. But yet me, when I tell my crazy stories, oh my God, she's insane. She's so weird and outrageous. I'm scared. There are literal message boards out there about me where people are afraid. They're afraid. I'm not going to tell you the kind of content they've created around being afraid of me, but it made me feel badly for them. And also I was like, I'm a powerful bitch. If I can make people that scared because I told this kind of story or I said this or that, damn, But anyway, I love the fact that Mecca and Jamila kind of reclaimed that word unhinged for all of us out there. And they're like 10 years younger than me. And Mecca, they have a podcast now, like I said, Unhinged and Immoral. And Mecca was talking one day about it. And she was like, yeah, man, you go out in Houston, people be old in the clubs, like 40 plus. So, we would never hang out. But I love the fact that they're just owning up to the fact that Black women don't have to be perfect to be visible. If you want to be this ultra professional, hyper, everything makes sense kind of Black woman, go ahead. There's an audience for you, but there's also an audience for very regular people that have had lots of different things happen to them. They're very, very real. And I respect the hell out of them for that. Yeah, so they have this platform, and one of the many things they do on their platforms besides, do vlogs, talk about their past, they talk about so much stuff. One of the many things they do is they give their takes on a lot. Hot takes on what's going on TikTok. A lot of people do that. Commentary content is easy. That's why people do it. But it's also derivative, right? Just because you give your take doesn't mean your take matters. Just because you give your opinion doesn't mean your opinion matters. So a lot of people have accused Mecca and Jamila and the other people that they're associated with of just having the same recycled takes over and over again. Whenever they talk about something, you know where they're going to come from. You know what their vibe is. And a lot of people have also criticized them for needing to talk about every single thing. Again, content creation is a job. That's what they do. And a lot of their audience wants to know, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? So they do. They talk about everything. And because they're making videos on TikTok, and TikTok is not the production that YouTube is, they can just be in their bonnet, in bed, and clock in. And people started calling that kind of content bonnet and headboard content. And a lot of people have very, very low opinions of it. In my mind, content creation is kind of like a pyramid, right? And at the top of the pyramid, especially for women, that's going to be your beauty vlog, beauty vlog. That's going to be that content at the very top. That is the most brand safe. That is the most fiscally rewarding. And that's going to get the most people to respect you and want to follow you. They can say whatever they want about you being unrelatable. I can't buy these things. I can't. Watch how quickly a luxury content creator grows their account versus somebody that just gives their takes, versus somebody that tells, whatever kind of stories. Watch how quickly those people grow. Because as much shit as people talk, that's the top of the pyramid, right? One time I had somebody say to me, maybe one day you can stop doing whatever that is and be more like Jackie Aina or Aaliyah's Face. And if you know Jackie Aina and Aaliyah's Face, you know that they do that top of the pyramid content. Now, I actually find both of those women not relatable lifestyle wise, because they are way richer than I will ever be, but relatable. I find them very relatable and personable, both Jackie and Aaliyah. But this isn't about Aaliyah. Let's get to Jackie. So Jackie is involved in this whole situation because one day Jackie made a video and she said, please don't call me an auntie. I don't like that. and she made a video saying, please stop. Jamila and Mecca and many of the other people that they talk to and hang around and make content, whatever, weighed in on it. And they weren't necessarily nice about it. On top of being commentary creators, like I said, they're both funny. They don't know Jackie, and I also think that the idea is that Jackie is so much. She's been around so much longer. Her platform's so much bigger. It's okay to throw rocks upward, right? A lot of people think of comedy as being okay like that. Like, as long as I'm punching up, it's fine. But when I start to punch down, it's a problem. The issue is that even if you're punching up, you can still hurt somebody's feelings. You punch up and that punch lands, you can still hurt their feelings, right? So I know specifically Jamila made some videos kind of laughing at Jackie and mocking her. And according to Jackie, that's when she decided to go ahead and block Jamila. Also, when you talk about certain people and things as a content creator, I know this has happened to me sometimes. I posted once about a specific celebrity on my Instagram that I had met or something, and the comment section turned into people saying why they didn't like that celebrity, the celebrity didn't deserve a platform, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, ooh, I know people that work with this person. I got to take this down. And I removed the post from my Instagram. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know. But yeah, sometimes when you talk about certain things or certain people, you do open up a forum or a platform for people to make fun of and pile on that individual. And even if that's not your original purpose for talking about them, it doesn't mean that you didn't open the door. And so I remember when all of that was going down, I was following both Mecca and Jamila at the time. And yeah, definitely the comment sections were people saying, you know, oh my God, she's doing too much. I disagree, of course, as an older person, as somebody who's used to being elderfied on the internet without my consent, and also as somebody who listened to Jackie's story where she talked about how traumatizing it was for her to be considered an adult so early, the role she had to take on as an oldest daughter with all of these other children behind her, the decisions she had to make in her life that forced her into being an adult too soon, And now she wants to reclaim that. And so she doesn't want to be referred to as auntie anymore. And I kind of talked about that in my last video. I understood where she was coming from. I did not appreciate people laughing at her. Jamila made a video and she was like, Jackie, that was some auntie shit to say something like that. And a lot of people had that feeling, and I disagreed. Again, maybe because I'm older and also because I was listening. I disagreed. But I didn't take Jamila serious because, again, she's a comedian and I'm not Jackie. So it didn't hurt my feelings, right? So I thought, we moved on. Now, according to Jackie, that's when she blocked Jamila. How was anybody supposed to know that? You know, you don't get a notification. There's no way to know that for sure, right? Until a couple months later when Jackie was in some more mess. And this time, and I say some more mess, it's just that she tends to be the kind of content creator, and this is probably what would happen to me. This is why I kept a low profile on TikTok. You know, unless I was posting my dog, you didn't hear from me. But, that's when I got blocked, by the way. So I used to have a burner account before I have the account that I have now. And my burner was called, my username was Mine Mads, and my burner was, I don't remember what I don't remember it, but I had it for like a year when I decided I didn't want no TikTok at all. I just wanted to watch and lurk and comment. And I made a comment in her comment section regarding the auntie thing. And all I said was something like, yeah, it bothers her. So, or something like it's clear, but I don't even know what I said. But I know a couple months later, when this next thing went down, I went looking for Jackie's account to see, or just like looking her up to see what was going on. I hadn't checked in with her in a while. Mine Mads was blocked. I was like, oh. And I know that because I looked it up with my burner, and then I looked it up as myself, and I could see her. So I said, oh, I guess I got blocked. And so that brings me to this next issue. So a couple months later, Jackie decided to premiere, but not premiere, the fact that she had gotten married. Her new name is Asamoah, and she married her longtime boyfriend, Dennis. Jackie has always said that if she got married, the internet wouldn't know about it. And I know exactly why she says that, and that is because the internet is terrible. People mocked her relationship for years, called her a sugar mama, said Dennis was just there to use her. I have been in corners of the internet where they do talk about that relationship very badly. And so I totally understand her wanting to keep that private and keep that to herself. What I don't understand is changing your name and not expecting people to react. I also do think something was going on with maybe her team, whoever monitors her comments, whatever. because people were saying, hey, I could see her account yesterday. I can't see it today. Did she block me? And I think a lot of people were also reacting that way because Jackie has been in their lives for the last like 20 years. She's been on the internet for 20 years almost. So to see this person who has been this person you look up to, the person you buy products from, this person that you may not even see as an auntie, but as a big sister, to see her all of a sudden block you out of this new stage in her life, maybe because you just wrote congratulations. Now, some people are nasty about it, but that hurt. I definitely could see people hurting from that. And I was careful not to write nothing. You know, I already knew what was up. And Jamila made a comment at the time and she said, Jackie Aina, that's a strict bitch. You know, again, making fun of it, being a comedian, etc., etc. And apparently shortly after, she went and checked and she saw that she was blocked. And I remember looking at Jamila's content after or when this happened and thinking, you know, she's defending her. A lot of people were, why she can't have nobody say congratulations? What's wrong with her? What's wrong with her? And Jamila was like, y'all know she's strict. Y'all know how it goes down. Like, I don't really see why you're confused. So these things happen. They happen in succession. They happened months ago. And then last week, Jamila and Mecca and some of their compatriots that are so lovingly referred to by TikTok as the Super Five. And I say lovingly kind of facetiously because they had been in some hot water over some of their hot takes that they were giving about various things. I'm not going to get into it, but some people had gotten their pages banned because of it. Some people, it just wrote in stone for me that if you're not doing aspirational content and you're not doing mommy vlogging content and you're not teaching people how to do, I don't know, but you got to be careful with commentary. And that's the caveat, right? Everybody wants to hear what you have to say until they don't like it. And then they trying to get you banned. And what I think happens with a lot of creators is they feel real free. Everybody want to hear what I have to say. I can say whatever. I'm just popping off. I throw on my bonnet, pull up my blanket and start talking. But that's an illusion. That freedom is an illusion because you never know who's listening, who's going to get super pissed. You never know who's sitting in a certain corner of the internet. I wouldn't be surprised if all these girls got pages dedicated to them with people ready to pull the effing trigger and try and get their stuff banned. Like it happened to one of the creators that's in the group with them. Her page went down, came back. Like it's crazy. It's too much. It's too much. It's too much. So they had already been in some trouble. And when they got in some trouble again over something new, Jackie decided to skate in and say, I'm not surprised you guys have a problem with them because I have a problem with them. And all of these things that she'd been kind of holding in, not just about these creators, but about that type of content in general, she let out. She let it be known that she thinks that content based around just commenting on what everybody else is talking about and doing is the lowest form of content. So it's the lowest thing on the pyramid. So she'd probably agree with my friend who told me my former friend, maybe one day you can do something like Jackie Aina does it. She'd probably agree with that person. I myself have called commentary derivative. I get it. She also talked about the fact that she thinks that those types of people display really bad behavior that in her line of work with her platform, she would never be able to get away with. She would never be able to talk about people and say the things that these people say and are praised for. And she doesn't think that that's fair. And something she said really stuck with me because, like I said, I didn't take anything Jamila was saying hurtfully because I'm not Jackie, but I know that I've told stories and I've said things about people and I've ended up blocked or relationships have suffered in real life. And I didn't mean to. That was not my intention. And in the past, I have removed the stories. I've accepted the block. I've said goodbye to the relationship, whatever it might be, because impact is important. And even if I didn't mean it to hurt the person, if they were hurt, then, well, damn, I got to deal with the consequences. But I also want to say that in the podcast where Jamila was defending herself, she kept holding up the videos as an example of, I didn't say anything wrong, I didn't do anything wrong. And I had to stop watching the podcast because I was like, girl, if you don't hear your tone, if you don't hear the way you talking about that girl, this is something that has stuck out with me consistently since I started doing content and since I started being perceived publicly on the internet. Nobody likes being talked about unless it's overwhelmingly positive. That's it. And it's very hard, like doing the kind of work I do, telling stories, doing story times. It's hard to talk about people overwhelmingly positively, especially if you guys had conflict that you were working through and that's where the story came from. So I have to think once, twice, three times about whether or not I want to share something. And most of the time the answer is no. I usually only share if it's like something big. But even then, I'm like, oh, damn, should I have shared that? Sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes it's yes. Sometimes it's whatever. But I think especially in these situations where you're speaking about somebody that you really don't even know for real. So, for example, when Jamila said, Jackie is a strict bitch, Jackie can hear that. And you don't know her like that. And you're making that like that's rude. If you know each other, then okay, great. But if you don't, then it's a tough. Nobody likes being talked about. And like I was saying, over on TikTok, it's different than here on YouTube. On YouTube, you guys can leave a comment. You can say something about me, and guess what I get to do? Log off, go away. Don't have to look at the comment section. La-di-da-di-da-di-da. Turn off my notifications. Don't receive it. I make a choice to go look at some comment sections and to leave some completely alone because I can tell how people about to act. On TikTok, unless you mute your own name, even if you block people, content about you, content about what you're doing, your choices, it can still come up. And if it's negative, it is hurtful. And on that note, one of the things that I noticed about these girls was something I've been saying from the beginning of time. Whenever people would ask me, why do you have to worry about the haters? Why not worry about your supporters? That is because the human brain is naturally wired to look out for threats. It is something called the negativity bias, where we naturally pay attention to the things that are negative. So no matter how many people write in Jackie's comments, you're amazing, you're great, we get it, we love you, you don't want to be Auntie Jackie, the negative comments are going to hit twice as hard. Same thing with Jamila and Mecca. No matter how many people were like, girl, she is overreacting, she's just old, this is something an old auntie would do, don't worry about her. Her comments, her little 8-minute video, lighting them up and saying you basically deserve to be criticized because you don't do any content that's worthwhile, was more hurtful to them than anything positive anybody could say. It would have been very simple for them to just let that roll off the back, but no, they didn't. The girls did make a podcast that I've referred to plenty of times, addressing Jackie directly. And on that note, I will say this. A lot of people gave them a hard time, just leave this on TikTok, this is a mess or whatever. Here's why I'm happy they didn't do that. First of all, from a content creator perspective, like I said earlier, TikTok is shutting down. So these girls have been set up, or these young women have been set up this podcast. They've been said that they're going to do something like this. And they had a couple views. And normally when people decide to move from TikTok to YouTube, their audiences don't always come with them. They don't always watch the content. They had a couple hundred views, maybe 1,000 on a couple videos. I tracked their channel that day. The day the podcast dropped, I tracked their channel and I watched them go from 3,000 to 10,000 in like a day. And that video currently, the video addressing Jackie is currently sitting at over 100,000 views. That is brilliant from a content creation perspective, from a building a new platform perspective. Even though a lot of people were like, "Oh, why did this happen? Like, why can't we all just get along?" In choosing to criticize them in the way that she did, and even though Jackie didn't name anybody, she said everybody knew who she was talking about. In choosing to criticize them the way that she did, she handed them the gift of a new platform. Like, hey, if you want to see us in a new way, we are going over here. It showed to me that they made the most of that opportunity in the right way. It showed what I've been saying about how important collaboration is and having partnership in your creative journey. So, they didn't have to go looking for, well, who can I speak to? Who's got my back? Very clear that they had each other's back on this, regrouped and figured it out that day. This is how, what did they say? We're going to do an emergency episode of the podcast. Got that out soon. And throughout all this, I found out they have a publicist. Like, they're not playing no games with this venture. And from a content creation perspective, I loved it. I also loved that it allowed people who do that kind of bottom of the pyramid content to defend themselves. Hey, listen, I know I'm not steaming sheets. I know I'm not getting ready for a gala. I know I'm not, but it doesn't mean what I do is completely lacking in value. I know you don't find value in it, but it doesn't mean I'm completely lacking in value. I think that that's something important. Listen, like I said, I do think commentary can be extremely derivative. I do think it's exhausting to have people weighing in on everything. And I don't watch all the videos that Mecca and Jamila post. I be scrolling past. It's a lot. But there are some times when things happen and I want to know exactly what they think. Especially, I cannot stress this enough, Mecca is hilarious. Jamila is funny as well. But Mecca she ties into everything. If you don't follow her on TikTok, I'm going to link her account below. And I'm saying, enjoy it. Enjoy the last few days we got. This girl she be everywhere and in everything. And sometimes I'm like, ooh, I didn't even see it that way. Like, I'm not even going to list it. I don't have time. But I do think that they have value, even if it's not the same thing. And something happened that I really didn't like, and it's going to be the last thing. And it's this concept of privilege and how it relates to visibility when it comes to content. So Jackie brought up the point that if she had chosen to direct her anger and ire at them back when they initially offended her earlier in the year. By the way, everybody who was asking, why does she talk about this now? Sometimes you sit on something and you're just not ready to talk about it yet. Because if you talk about it right now, you are going to sound crazy. So you need a little bit of time to let it marinate, okay? So Jackie, she brought it up when she wanted to, and she said, if I had come at you, imagine how that would have looked. You, a light-skinned woman on the internet. Me, a dark-skinned woman. You benefit from colorism, and it makes it easier for you to participate in these negative behaviors. And to me, I understood exactly where she was coming from. I felt like her perspective has been shaped by her experience, and I'm not one that will ever speak against anybody's lived experience. But one thing I do want to point out is that in that situation, I felt like Jackie had the privilege. She does the acceptable content. She does what an influencer is supposed to do. She's got the beautiful setting. She's got the gorgeous lighting. She's crossed over into white media. In fact, she made a lot of videos during this time with other content creators of color, but they can also be considered as content creators who have crossed over into white media. They get the big brand deals from companies that normally only work with white creators. They're out at these makeup events. They are living this life that these women don't have access to. So in my mind, yes, Jamila and Mecca were lighter skinned, absolutely, but Jackie had the privilege. That financial privilege, I feel, trumped anything else. She also has the privilege of history. More people know her name. And I feel like in this situation, Jackie might have felt like, I can't speak to these women like I want to because I'm darker skinned, but I don't think anybody would have looked at it that way. I think everybody would have looked at her as being Jackie Aina, talking to people who are making a different kind of content that most people don't respect in the same way. And so in that way, to me, she had it backwards, and she was looking through it through a lens that didn't really fit that situation. Now, if she was talking to white creators who were making the same kind of content, then maybe, yes. But that's not what was happening here. In this entire situation, I mostly agreed with Jackie. I felt like she had the right to be offended. A lot of people said she shouldn't have made a video. Why not? Why not? Why sit on something like that forever? Especially when a lot of people, it seemed the whole app was kind of calling into question, what is the purpose of content where people just comment on everything? And I'm gonna tell you what the purpose of it is. It creates community. People want to talk. What the kind of content that Jamila and Mecca do, it's like a group chat that everybody can be involved in. I think it has a purpose. It may not have the same purpose as what she's doing, but it has a purpose. But it was the right time. It was the right time to say, oh, and by the way, I have an issue as well. And I feel like the way she expressed herself and the things she said were very, very understandable. And if you take away from maybe, I don't know, when I watched her video, her full 8-minute video, I didn't have any issue with it. I don't think I would have said anything because of the stress that it caused the internet. I mean, it went on for days, but I do understand why she did. But the one thing I disagreed with her on was the inclusion of the colorism thing. Like, I couldn't say anything earlier because I'm dark skinned. Yeah, but girl, you're very rich and you've been around for a long time. And even amongst Black people, your content is the kind of content that is respected. Whereas Jamila and Mecca, it's a different thing. It's in a whole different lane. You had the upper hand here. You definitely did. And I don't think Jackie thinks of herself that way, which once again brings me back to the whole concept of you think you punching up, but that person can still feel it. They might not look at themselves the same way you do. Long story short, this entire situation proved that I was right about three things always. The first thing is some kinds of content are always worth more than others in the eyes of not only commerce, but in the eyes of people in general. The way that Jackie has been able to build her platform, the things. Oh, and there was one person who made a video and was like, people don't really like her content anymore. Now it's time for the baddies. And I said, look at you giving a hot take from your bedroom in a bonnet, and she's making the content she's making, and she's at the one size event. People still love her content. Brands still respond to this. This is going to always be at the top of the pyramid. What are you talking about? But it is what it is. So that's one thing it proved. One type of content will always kind of sit there and be able to look down on others, right? And there's really no way you can get around that. The second thing it proved is that when it comes to being on the internet, being publicly perceived in a negative way is tough stuff. I don't care who you think you are. When you first see that somebody doesn't like you, or you first start getting that criticism, that shit is like getting electrocuted. I don't care how many people you have around you, how many followers you have, how many team members you have. Especially from Jamila, I felt like she's not really able to interpret anything that she did negatively here because she's so busy defending herself. But yeah, I can't even judge how anybody responds, because that first time you're in some mess and people are attacking you, ooh, it hurts. And it was incredibly validating for me to see other people flipping out, because people have always said to me, you need to be better, don't pay attention to the haters. No, it sucks, and it's gonna hit. It sucks. Whether it just sucks. And I want to say the last thing here, it was extremely validating to see how people's messages were received based on the audience. I think a lot of times when you say something as a content creator, as a commentary person, whatever, you tend to look at your comments, or you tend to look at your response, and based on how people respond to you, you decide whether or not you're right or wrong. You decide whether or not you have a good point or a bad point. And it was crazy to me to see in one video, somebody would say, oh my God, Jackie sound like such an idiot. In another video, somebody would be like, oh, why them girls try and come for Jackie? The Jackie Aina?
Y'all really got to stop putting people on these fake little pedestals. Why can't Jackie Aina come on here and yap? Everybody else yapping.
There is a clique of creators. They are bullies. They bullied me during the summer, during this whole thing, where they kind of lied about why I blocked them. They specifically used their light skin privilege to invoke colorism to send their fans to bully me. Well, we just woke up and saw this. A lot of things were said that were not true or misunderstanding. Also, obviously, I have to answer because of the colorism accusation. I'm going to address this on my podcast with one of the people involved. That's the best way for us to do it.
A podcast? You guys are pathetic. Oh.
First off, good morning to the artist formerly known as Jackie Aina and Jackie Aina only, because y'all really got on here and villainized that lady for being vulnerable and talking about the way that y'all favorite light-skinned creators made her feel when the negative discourse was about her.
I'm very curious how Jackie feels knowing that her plan did not work. Girl, you thought you ate with that one, didn't you?
So let me just get this straight. You can talk shit about me unprovoked, but I can't talk about the shit that you're talking about me. That's not allowed. You can make 3 videos regarding my boundaries and how you would handle them as if you were a factor in it, as if you held any relevancy in it, but I can't block you.
Jackie's response to all of this is definitely something my auntie would do.
I hope when Mecca and Jamila get on here, they whack the shit out of Jackie Aina, because that video was ignorant, rude, and actually ironic as fuck.
You also love Jackie Aina because she assimilates to whiteness and calls it lifestyle content.
People love Jackie Aina because she's that bitch.
And I feel like Jackie Aina is going through a midlife crisis, and she's taking her frustrations out on the next generation of content creators. Welcome to my TED Talk. We have aged out of the clean girl influencer aesthetic. We are now in the day and age of the Shira Sevens and the baddies.
How well these women were received, their points were received, their opinions were received, dependent upon the audience that was receiving them. And it just reminded me that this career, this experience is incredibly subjective. And what might get you cussed out in one audience will have another audience trying to figure out, well, where can we support you? Where can we follow? What can we do?
Apparently, what the universe wanted me to do was to shut up and stop talking. This is the longest video I've ever made, and I accidentally deleted the final clip where I was signing off. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. And it is, of course, to be understood that there was so much more that could be talked about. But that's just the first 2 weeks of December. We've got 2 more weeks left. And then it's New Year's, and then it's Valentine's Day, and then it's going to be Christmas again. So I want to say to you all, Merry Christmas 2025. And as always, thank you for watching.